efforts are underway to try to depress voter turnout, particularly among Black and Latino voters. Today, we're going to take a look at disinformation campaigns targeting both of those groups, starting with Latinos. According to Pew Research, Hispanics are on track to become the largest minority voting bloc. In the battleground state of Florida, roughly 2.4 million Latinos are registered to vote, making up a record 17% of the state's total. Rachel Scott has more on why and how they're being targeted.
For Maria Baez, health care is a top election issue. Her 8-year-old grandson, Daniel, has special needs and still struggles to walk on his own. He's the reason she votes, and he's also the reason she fled Puerto Rico in the wake of Hurricane Maria.
To have my grandson say, "Grandma, I'm thirsty." I'm thirsty, and to not have any cold water to give him. That was one of the reasons why I decided I had to leave Puerto Rico.
Voters like Maria face significant challenges as first-time voters. Even as U.S. citizens, Puerto Ricans who live on the island have no say in who becomes president until they move to the mainland.
When they come here, all of a sudden they don't know what do Republicans stand for, what Democrats stand for. And then all of a sudden they have to come here and participate in the big process out here on where the platforms are established here, and it becomes a little bit more complicated.
Helping Puerto Ricans navigate the democratic process, nonprofit, nonpartisan groups like Latino Justice.
So right now we have a campaign underway. It's called Pa Luego es Tarde, which loosely translates to the sooner the better. And the aim of this campaign is to reach Latino voters in Florida in Spanish, but particularly Latino voters who live in rural areas that don't necessarily get the same attention.
The group is tasked with not only providing resources, but combating disinformation, which has been a major problem in 2020. Bogus stories spreading right-wing conspiracy theories, often in Spanish, popping up in community WhatsApp chats, Facebook feeds, and even extending into mainstream radio and newspaper outlets. The editor of the Miami Herald's Spanish-language sister paper recently apologizing for running a paid media insert comparing Black Lives Matter activists to Nazi thugs and other anti-Semitic and racist content. That insert ran for more than 8 months. Disinformation has always been used to create confusion and fear around voting by mail.
There's a lot of misinformation, particularly on social media, right? You cannot go into any social media and not see false information about vote by mail and how it is not safe and how it leads to fraud. What we're trying to tell people is that none of that is based on facts.
It just seems like with your job is so important every election year, but especially now with the pandemic, with all of these misleading and false claims that are being spread, to counteract the confusion, that your job is so critical right now.
And at the end of the day, I'm very comfortable in saying that we are reaching our communities. We're making the best out of this kind of like new digital landscape and having reach into places that we would not normally be able to, because it would be difficult to go to in person. We're not having just enough personnel to cover all this ground. So we're trying to really reach our communities wherever they are to make sure that they have all of this information available.
And Rachel Scott joins us live now. Rachel, what do we know about where this disinformation is coming from? Who's behind it?
Well, Diane, there is certainly a lot of finger pointing going on here. You have Democrats looking at Republicans, especially when it comes to pushing out information about mail-in voting, even looking to the president himself, who has pushed these unfounded claims that it leads to widespread voter fraud. And then they're attacking Republicans, saying that they're pushing out misinformation about Biden's campaign and socialism. Then you have the Trump campaign responding and saying the real disinformation campaign is Biden trying to distance himself from what they call a socialist platform. So right now here, you have a lot of this finger pointing going on, but we know that disinformation in an election cycle is nothing new. We know that Russia had some influence in the 2016 election. The director of national intelligence this year saying that China, Russia, and Iran were at it again, trying to influence the 2020 election. And then, of course, it does not help when you have some Republican candidates out there actually endorsing conspiracy theories like the QAnon conspiracy theory. That leaves a lot of voters out there confused and trying to figure out who to trust.
And Rachel, why target Latino voters specifically?
Yeah, well, if you're looking at suppressing the vote, right, one way to look at this is looking at the largest minority bloc in 2020. That is expected to be the Latino and the Hispanic population. And they're going to be a key demographic in this election. They're going to have some key influence influences in pretty big states like Florida and Arizona. And so if they're looking to suppress the vote, that's one way to start looking at what demographics are going to be key in deciding this election. But experts also say that language is such a barrier in these communities where it is their dominant language. And then on top of that, when you have so much of these conversations taking place on social media apps like WhatsApp, where people communicate with their family members that don't live in the United States or don't live on the mainland here, it's a lot harder for social media giants to control what sort of information is spread on those private chats, Diane.
All right, Rachel Scott, thanks for that. And a reminder to tune in tonight for our ABC News Live special, America's Future, the Power of the Latino Vote. That starts at 8 p.m. Eastern.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.